Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 13th, 2021 Pennington County Planning Commission. Recommendations from the Planning Commission on certain items from the agenda will be considered by the Board of Commissioners at the regular meeting on December 21st, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. Please note that the Planning Commission utilizes speaker request forms, which are available in the Commission chambers during the meeting. They look like this. They're on the back table. If there's an item on the agenda that you wish to speak to and you're neither the applicant or the agent, I would ask that you fill those out and turn those in up here in the corner at the dais and keep me organized here during the meeting. First item is roll call. Note that everyone is here, less Sandy. Deb is here from the board. First item on the agenda is approval of the November 22nd, 2021 minutes. Is there any changes or corrections to the minutes?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Page 16, the number of conditions, I believe, should be 12, not 11 at the bottom. And I did notify the planning office.
Okay, noted. Any other changes or corrections? Hearing none, seeing none. Noting the change on page 16 for the number of conditions. Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of items 3 through 11, followed by regular items 12 through 22, with our normal end of meeting items after following that. Are there any changes to today's agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I would like to move item 7 from the consent agenda to regular items.
Okay, I'll call for that here. So there's items that you'd wish to speak to on that. I'll call for that in just a little bit. Any other items? Noting none, I would entertain approval of today's agenda. Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Motion and second for approval of today's agenda. Further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on the consent agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Mahler, Planning Director. The consent agenda. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission on certain items from this agenda are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item number 3 is Conditional Use Permit Review CU 0514, Desiree Kursov, to review a single-wide manufactured home as a single-family residence in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends to continue the review of Conditional Use Permit CU 0514 to the April 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting with conditions. Item number 4 is Conditional Use Permit Review CU 1739 for Colonial Pine Hill Sanitary District, Jim Martin as the agent, to review an office building to serve the Colonial Pine Hill Sanitary District in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of Conditional Use Permit CU 1739 with conditions. Item number 5 is Conditional Use Permit Review CU 20-09 for David and Janelle Gorgon, to review the existing double-wide mobile home to be converted into a garage with living quarters being removed in a suburban residential district, and staff recommends approval of the extension of Conditional Use Permit CU 20-09 with conditions. Item number 6 is Conditional Use Permit Review CU 20-12 for Michael and Morella Anderson to review a guest house in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of Conditional Use Permit CU 20-12 with conditions. Item number 7 is Conditional Use Permit Review CU 20-15 for Greg Helgerson to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence in an agriculture district. Staff recommends to continue the review of Conditional Use Permit CU 20-15 to the January 10th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting with one condition. Item number 8 is minor plat MPL 21-84 for Caputa Acres LLC, Milton Gut Connect, to create Tract 1 of Caputa Acres Edition, and staff recommends approval of minor plat MPL 21-84 with conditions. Item number 9 is minor plat MPL 21-85 for Connie and Detlef Crouch. KTM Design Solutions is the agent to subdivide and create lots 1 and 2 of Storm Hill Subdivision Number 2, and staff recommends approval of minor plat MPL 21-85 with conditions. Item number 10 is minor plat MPL 21-86 for Jeffrey Scher to reconfigure lot lines and create Lot D1 revised and Lot D2 revised of Lot 17 in Fort Meade Placer Number 244. Staff recommends approval of minor plat MPL 2186 with conditions. And finally, item 11 is minor plat MPL 21-87 for Randy and Peggy Sogi. Fisk Land Surveying is the agent to subdivide and create lots 3RA and 3RB of Block 2 of Dead Broke Subdivision. And staff recommends approval of minor plat MPL 21-87 with conditions.
Thank you. Are there any items that staff wishes to pull from the consent agenda?
No, not at this time.
We want to pull number
Number 7.
7 from the consent agenda from the membership. Does anyone else wish to pull any items from the consent agenda?
Number 5, please.
Number 5 and number 7. For those in the audience, with the exception of number 5 and number 7, we will vote on items 3 through 11 with one vote. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on any items 3 through 11? Noting none. Staff recommends approval of items 3 and 4, 6, and 8 through 11. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of the consent agenda, less items 5 and 7. Further discussion. Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 5.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just to shorten this up, my only question is how it is stated in our staff report here to review the existing double-wide mobile home to be converted into a garage with living quarters. I didn't even see a garage door. In any of the pictures, it threw me for a curve. I was thinking more it's a storage building, not a garage, but it's just a point. That was the only question I had on the whole thing from the pictures. It's kind of a misnomer what we're approving, is where I was coming from. Do you think that's accurate or not?
Yes, I can see how that's accurate.
So we call it a garage, it doesn't have a garage door.
Yeah.
It's maybe a shed, a storage shed would be a better wording for that.
Okay. So, but back in 2020, we called it a garage, and that has carried forward till today.
Correct.
So I guess, is there any changes to be made?
Didn't even think about that. I saw that actually it wasn't 2020, it's 2019, I'm pretty sure. That was another clerical error I caught up on the page 3 of 4 on the top said it couldn't have been approved in December, and then again, this conditional use in 2022 either, could it? Both of them are 2020. Up on the top, existing conditions of approval.
That might have been my fault and just
Yeah,
forgot to
I think it was
erase that.
19. I just assumed it was. It's just a clerical.
Okay.
But you're correct. I'm just saying, when we approve these things, folks look to us as what we've done. And I mean, this is a closed-in building. This isn't like, you can say, here, open up the garage door and I'll take a look on next review. This is a building you'd have to actually walk inside of to see. It's my only point.
So my question is then maybe back to staff. If we change the description of the conditional use permit upon reapproval, is there an issue with just changing the description of the conditional use permit?
That's a good point. I certainly don't want to do that.
Chairman, can I
Go
ask a
ahead.
question?
Is that the house? This house was recently sold, if I'm correct. How long has, is this,
The new home, the red one,
the red orange?
not to my understanding that it was recently sold.
Brittany? Is the house that had no water and sewer, or is this, am I thinking something else?
He was asking if this was recently
And it
sold,
was
this
sold?
property
Is this a different house?
on the road. I don't.
There would have had to been a replat
I'm not saying
because they're side by side.
has the same owners.
Has this house been recently sold? That's why maybe some of this is confusing.
Mr. Chair, while they're looking those up, I wouldn't want to go far enough to change it if it was going to create a consideration where they had to do an additional filing. I would like to instead just make my comments for the record.
Okay, noted.
It would be nice to know if this property was sold and that's why the change of use and some of that language was different.
No, I don't think that there's been a change. I think back in 2020, it was just called a garage. And it looks like it's more like a double wide mobile home that's been turned into a storage shed instead of a garage.
Well, I think if I'm correct, it's because of water and sewer issues that were at the house. Probably they couldn't use that and had to turn it into storage. That's gonna be my guess. If that house was sold lately.
Yeah, it wasn't sold. It's been the same owner since 2016.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? So at this point, staff recommends approval of the extension of the conditional use permit.
So moved. Unless you had additional comments, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 7.
Do you have, does the planning commissioners have any specific questions for number 7, or would you like me to go through the whole thing?
My question on this, if you look at the analysis, we've had this every month since September, it looks like, with nothing being done and not much response from the applicant, and now he's going to change his conditional use permit to do something completely different. Is he going to have to bring the mobile home up to county standards as in these conditions?
When he plans to, reapplies to amend his conditional use permit, we will have new conditions under that, to which we can enforce him to change his current living conditions for the mobile home. He lives in North Dakota, or he doesn't live in North Dakota, he works in North Dakota a few weeks of the month, and it was a hard time getting hold of him that way.
It just seems like we're just giving him more time to not do anything, but that's for us to decide next month, I guess.
Just one additional question, but nobody's living there in the meantime?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions on item 7? If none, the recommendation on item 7 is to continue the review of this conditional use permit until the January 10th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to continue item 7. Further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 12.
Good morning, Commissioner Shruti Masapun, Planning Department. I would like to make a correction in the staff report on page 3, B future land use within half a mile on page 3. So number 1, low density residential residence, I put the color as brown, the correction should be orange. And then number 2, the suburban residential, for the future land use, the color should be brown instead. So I just switch it. I can show you. Agenda item 12 is a rezone RZ 21-31. The applicant and landowners are William Mary Lou Carlson. The location of the property is at 6299 Green Valley Drive. The property is 1.08 acre. The current land use the current zoning district is agriculture district. The access is off of Green Valley Drive, and that is a special flood hazard in the area. On the screen, you will see on the picture on the left side of the screen is the current zoning. It consists of agriculture district, suburban residential district, plan unit development, and rural residential district. And the picture on the right shows the future land use. It includes the low density residential districts, suburban residential district, plan unit development. This request has been routed for an interdepartmental review. No concern were noted. The applicant requested to rezone the property in order to meet the required setback for a proposed carport, which it will be on the yellow item right here. And if they still in the agriculture district, they will not be able to meet the 25 feet setback and still be outside of the floodway, which is in this red color right here. The future land use in the area also identifies multiple parcels as low density residential district within half a mile of the subject property. The applicant request is in harmony with surrounding abutting current zoning, future land use designations, and the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval of rezone RZ 2131.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this item?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve this item.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
where's the infrastructure? When we were at one of our meetings, they said that the water and sewer, did Rapid Valley Sanitary Sewer, are they in that area? No, Brittany?
I can show.
And where does that water and sewer go from there?
So currently at this time, they do have water
Okay,
through the Green Valley Sanitary District does have water through Rapid Valley Sanitary District. They have been working with the state on obtaining some low-cost loans and working with Rapid Valley Sanitary District on getting sewer in that area. There has been design plans already done, so it's just a matter of getting the financing and getting the Green Valley Sanitary District. They need to get all of the individuals within that area on board for the project.
okay, so I know the sewer system comes down 44, but do you know anything about, I know on Southside Drive, in the future, they're supposed to bring that through the city, remember through Elk Country Estates. Is that still happening? And when they bring that through, are a lot of these, can they connect to that? Do you know anything about that, Brittany, when that comes through?
I do. That actually is city right now, and so that they were working with the city at one point to serve the wastewater in that area, and now they're going through Rapid Valley Sanitary District to do that, and then eventually turn it over. So it's Green Valley Sanitary District, and
Okay.
then they're going to be getting, get their water from Rapid Valley Sanitary District.
Okay.
And then they're going to work with Rapid Valley Sanitary District for the sewer lines too. They were working with the city and Rapid Valley, but right now they're going to go through Rapid Valley Sanitary District. That's the last that I've heard.
Which is good because of the floodplain and the things that are happening out there. It's kind of nice to know that they're upgrading and they're making sure that area's taken care of and not.
Right, they have, that Green Valley Sanitary District has been working, there's just a lot of moving parts, but they are working and striving for having sewer in those areas.
I appreciate that and adding more. That's why I was saying this, and the planning commissioners know. You already know if you have a problem area, the last thing you want to do is add more to it if we don't have those water and sewer and that infrastructure in that area. So thank you for that update.
Mr. Chair, Brittany?
Go ahead.
But just for planning purposes, when we look at these sort of things, that property owner still has the right to move forward with attempting to put in a septic should all the other opportunities fail, which I don't think they will, but.
Correct, but there's an existing residence and septic on this. Once the the Green Valley Sanitary District gets sewer, it's up to them. There is something in the administrative rules that says if you have sewer within 400 feet, that they can require you to hook up. It's not something that we can do because we're not the sewer provider. It would be up to the Green Valley Sanitary District if they would force that connection.
But should they deny them? In other words, it's kind of like playing cards or chips. If they deny them, then they have the right to move forward to look at a septic through your department and the state.
Correct. With the floodplain in that area and the high water table, the limiting factor on development in this area is the sewer system. So once they get sewer, that will help
Right.
with that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying that people with property still have certain options even outside. In other words, that we don't necessarily control the outcome of those options.
Correct. At this time, they could still do a mound system if they chose, but with the sewer system, it's just a better long-term solution.
Thank you.
Further questions on this item? Before we vote, I did have a speaker request form from the applicant. Sir, the current motion on the floor is for approval. Were you just wanting to answer questions if there were questions, or do you have other items to speak about? All right. Perfect, thank you. Further discussion? Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion and second for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 13.
Item 13 is layout plat LPL 2183 to combine two lots to create lot 13R in Block A of Edelweiss Mountain Development. The applicants and landowners are Eric Carlson and Laura Henney. The agent is KTM Design Solution. The location is located at 240 Bavarian Drive. The current zoning district is suburban residential district, and there is no flood hazard, no special flood hazard area on the property. Lot 13 of Block A of Edelweiss Mountain Development is 0.89 acre, and it consists of a single-family residence with a sun deck. Lot 14 is 0.88 acre and vacant of any structure. So the proposed lot that will combine into one lot will be lot 13R of Block A of Edelweiss Mountain Development. The proposed lot will be 1.78 acres and consists of the existing family residence. The request was routed for interdepartmental reviews. Register of Deeds stated that proposed lot is okay. Certificates appear to be required certificates by state statute. Acknowledgement of owner needs attesting replaced with acknowledged Otherwise, it is not acknowledged, and this office will not accept for recording. Staff will this will be added as a conditions of approval. The consolidation of the property will decrease the density of otherwise mountains development by one lot and create a lot that will be approximately 1.78 acres. However, the properties are in a dead end road system. The applicants are subject to follow the Pennington County Subdivision Regulation Section 500.5 or obtain and approve subdivision regulations. The applicant's requests appear to be in harmony with the existing lots and current land uses in the area. The proposed lot size meet the current zoning and the future land use destination. Staff finds no significant issue with the applicant's request as it appear to be in harmony with the existing laws and current land uses in the area. Layout plan is the first step in the planning process, and it is in an informational, no, I'm sorry, it is an informal initial review of the proposed subdivision for general scope and condition which might affect the plat. Staff recommends approval of layout plat LPL 21-83 with 99 conditions.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Hearing none, seeing none, staff recommends approval of layout plan LPL 21-83 with 9 conditions. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Voting none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 14.
Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. Item 14 is Conditional Use Permit CU 21-65. It is to allow a vacation home rental on the subject property. The applicant and landowner is Limestone Creek Ranch LLC, Thomas Stowers. The local contact is Candace Jackson with Travel Custer. The location of the request is at 24420 Oak Meadows Road. Involves 9.59 acres. Currently zoned rural residential district with an existing land use of residential. Access is off Oak Meadows Road, and there's no special flood hazard area on the property. When approving conditional use permits, we look at the 7 criteria. They're on the board. I'll read the responses. For number 1, a vacation home rental takes place entirely within an existing residence and should not be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare of the public. Number 2, VHRs are considered a residential use. Therefore, this conditional use permit should not change the residential use of the property. There are multiple existing VHRs within, sorry, that part should have been taken out. The requested use should not have any long-term negative effects on the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity. Number 3, allowing the CUP should not affect the normal orderly development or improvement of any surrounding property in the area. Number 4, the VHR utilizes an existing on-site wastewater treatment system. All necessary utilities appear to be in place. Number 5, access is off Oak Meadows Road via an existing approach. The requested use should not significantly affect the traffic congestion. Number 6, the property is owned in a rural residential district. VHRs are allowed with an approved CUP in the zoning district. Number 7, the future land use is rural residential district. Allowing this conditional use permit should be consistent with the current comprehensive plan. Currently on the property, there's a single-family residence with an attached garage with a rec room. That garage was actually converted into 2 bedrooms on top, and there is a building permit for that. And there's an existing on-site wastewater treatment system. This was routed out for interdepartmental review. No major comments or concerns were received. Oak Meadows Road is a developed 24-foot wide road maintained by County Highway. Staff wasn't able to perform a site visit prior to the staff report, and that site visit was canceled because of the weather on Friday. So staff's going to go out either this week or next week and verify that all conditions are being met. The applicant has submitted all the requirement documents for a vacation home rental. Staff has received some calls on the request, but no formal documentation of a yay or a nay. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of conditional use permit 21-65 with conditions.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
one question. If you look at the South Dakota Department of Revenue issue date and issue two, it says Candace M. Atkinson, but the applicant on here is Candace Jackson.
I'm guessing she got married. It's the same. It's the same person. The last name just changed.
So is her name Jackson now?
Her name is Jackson now. Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
same item. As I understand it, I think we're in violation again. That's not the owner. That's the contact person that has the sales tax license. Right? It says local contact is in Custer, Candace Jackson. So I'm lost. It says the owner is Limestone Creek Ranch LLC, Thomas Stowers. And our ordinance on page 171 says owner for a license. I'm not trying to hold this hostage, but I'm saying that's a detail that we got to look at and keep correct,
And why wouldn't you correct your sales tax license either?
because that's not the owner that's listed here.
No, I meant, Charlie, why wouldn't you have Jackson on there if it was Jackson? I mean,
So it should be
I'm not worried about
Limestone
Candace
Creek
at
Ranch
all.
LLC.
yes, but you see what I'm saying? Either way, the name isn't right.
Right. But I'm saying it's the wrong person. I don't want to ask Candace to get a
Megan,
new
do you
license
have
with the
an
right name.
opinion on this?
I can explain it if you come up.
Nice face.
So,
Sorry, I was talking to her about something.
yeah,
so
no,
wasn't paying
I
attention.
caught that. I thought she was trying to give you a 10-second download, and I'll go ahead and do that. The applicant, as we understand it, is Limestone Creek Ranch LLC, Thomas Stowers, out of Las Vegas, Nevada. The sales tax license appears to have been obtained by the local contact, Candace Jackson, except when she obtained it, it was Candace Atkinson. So the sales tax license doesn't jive with the owner, and it appears that the local contact obtained it on their behalf. And is that and can they do that? Is that a concern?
Is the person that obtained the sales tax stuff the agent for the
Yes. For the
business?
yeah.
Then
She
that's
runs
fine.
the business.
She's the manager, but not the owner.
So what it is Candace Jackson is through travel. It's a company called Travel Custer down in Custer. Everything is ran through her. All the VHR goes and everything goes through her and her company because the owner lives of the actual property lives down in Vegas. So the owner really doesn't have anything to do with the property besides signing the applications.
So she's a management company,
Correct. Yes.
and you can do that legally where, okay.
Yeah, I mean, as long as she's an agent or basically somebody that's been designated by the business to do business for them, I don't see any issue with it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Charlie.
that means every one of these local contacts could be the one with the sales tax license, because our ordinance specifically has the word owner in it on page 171. Not local contact, not some agent, it says owner.
I mean, but
We
as
went
long,
through this once before, and I thought we were going to get this corrected, this sales tax thing, because it's a DBA type of thing. And we're just looking the other way at too many of these DBA things that we throw in another name into our dealings. We have people that sit out here in the audience on other matters that think we look the other way at these things, these sort of details. And that's not correct. I don't look the other way at them. I'm sure none of you other members do.
Well, the
But
main thing
here's
is,
a glaring one.
legally, can you have a management company with a sales tax that makes more sense managing at that rate instead of owner, and is it legal to do that?
According to our ordinance, it says the word owner.
Now, to me, sometimes that's kind of scary too, because if the owner's not here to take care of a vacation home rental, sometimes that causes us issues, but
I agree.
Well, yeah.
legally.
But somebody else could still file the sales tax reports for that owner in that license. There's bookkeeping companies, all sorts of people file other people's sales tax reports and pay for them.
File them, but they don't put their name on them.
Well, that's true.
If it's something that you guys want me to look into, we could continue this and I could look into what the propriety of it is without doing more research. I can't tell you on the fly.
Yep. I'm concerned that staff was not able to get out there and confirm that the conditions of approval are being followed. So I was going to suggest to the commission here that this get continued for 2 weeks regardless.
Before we do that, can I throw in one more?
Right.
I'm not sure that the fire permit wording is the new wording we just approved either. I think we just passed some recommendations for how to list the fire pit, and I don't think that wording matches what we were using. We requested to use as a condition.
Okay.
So,
We'll move to continue to 2 weeks, which is, or when's our next planning?
second,
January 2nd.
It's January 10th.
January 10th.
Thanks, Charlie. January 10th.
So motion to continue to January 10th. Is there a second?
second.
Motion and second to continue. Further discussion? I do believe I had a speaker request form on this from Carolyn Cogan. It's stated rezoning at Oak Meadows, but this is the only Oak Meadows I think I have in my packet. Was this the subject that you wanted to speak to? If you would please come forth and I guess before you waste your time, just note that the motion on the floor is for continuance, but we'd love to hear what you have to say as well.
True.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this past discussion will address what I was going to say because I am opposed to the rezoning out at Oak Meadows. This is where my husband and I live. It's a residential community, and I think the last 10 minutes in discussing when the owners of property out at Oak Meadows are not there running their business and living there and making decisions, it poses a problem. Right now, there have been 2 properties sold this summer for vacation rentals, and those of us who live out there feel that this is a residential community we are owners and live there ourselves and make the decisions. And I understand that the past idea is that people that come and go on a rental basis also are residences, but it's very temporary. And I think that community was planned according to not have a commercial business for people that come and go for a few days. They don't participate in the community at all. And I am speaking for myself and my husband, but I do know that other people in the community feel pretty strongly about this too. And some, I think, have written notification about vacation rentals out in this beautiful area.
Well, Chairman,
Okay.
can I ask
Go
you one
ahead.
question? I know
Go
we're
ahead, Deb.
continuing. Do you have a HOA or anything out there?
Pardon me?
Do you have a HOA out in Oak Meadows?
Homeowners.
The homeowners association. There are covenants out there, but we don't have an active HOA. But there are covenants on the property, yes.
Do the covenants, do you know, say no vacation home rentals?
I don't think it addresses that. I haven't read that term is not used, as far as I know.
Okay.
So the applicant submitted a copy of the covenants with the application, and it doesn't specifically state that vacation home rentals are not allowed in that
So a
neighborhood.
lot of times we do not, by legal bounds, we do not legally supposed to follow that. But for me as a commissioner, if it says that in the covenants, that makes a difference for me. So I'm just telling you in the future, maybe that's something you need to change if that's not what you want in your community. Does that make sense?
I understand that.
Okay.
And I'll be better prepared in 2 weeks.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am, for
I
coming.
have
Yeah.
a question, ma'am. How many vacation rentals are in your immediate area? Just these two?
Well, there are about 18 residences out there right now and property owners. And 2 of them this summer have been purchased, 2 of these houses and homes have been purchased for vacation rentals, purchased by people out of state. And they have purchased their property for the purpose of rezoning to make them, to turn them into vacation rentals.
So if this went through, you'd end up with 3 in your area.
Well, no,
This will be the second.
no, this would be the one of the 2.
Oh, this is one of the 2. Oh, okay,
Yes,
I see what you're saying. All
yes.
right, good. All
And
right, I
I'm
was
not
just-
aware that the other one has even come up for application for rezoning, but I do know that for the last couple of months or 3 months, there have been people renting another one out there.
Okay. I just want to clarify, the application was for a conditional use permit. You're stating zoning, but they're not asking to actually rezone the property. They're just asking for the conditional use permit for the vacation home rental.
Okay,
The property as zoned, it allows vacation home rentals, but that also has some criteria with respect to lot size and septic and some of those other items. So I would encourage you to review some of those
Yes.
items before the
yes, I
next
certainly
meeting.
will.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just
ahead,
for
Trent.
my notes, what was the speaker's name?
Carolyn Colgan.
Okay, thank you.
Motion on the floor is to continue conditional use permit 2165 to the January 10th Planning Commission meeting. Further discussion? Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 15.
Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. Item 15 is Layout Plan LPL 21-82. It is to subdivide and create lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and utility lot of No Bad Days subdivision. The applicant and owner is No Bad Days Campground LLC, Rob Livingston. The surveyors, all aspects, incorporated land surveying. The location of the property is at 16001 West Highway 44. Involves 14.98 acres. Currently zoned highway service district, and currently the land use is a campground and a store. Access is off West Highway 44, and there is special flood hazard area on the property, Zone A. Currently, as the property sits, there's a conditional use permit that was approved by the Board of Commissioners on August 4th, 2020 for an RV park. There'll be 22 RV sites, 1 gas station, 1 convenience store, and 1 bar. And then CU 0810 was approved by the Planning Commission on August 24th, 2015 for a communications tower. They have a floodplain development permit. They have building permits for the convenience store and the cell tower, and they do have an on-site wastewater treatment system. For the proposed lot, lot 1 will be 7.23 acres and contain the convenience store and the existing septic. Lot 2 will be 3.94 acres and is vacant. Lot 3 will be 3.06 acres and vacant. Lot 4 is 3.06 acres and vacant, and the utility lot is 0.76 acres with a communication tower on it. This was routed around for interdepartment review. There were some comments from Register of Deeds on the notes on the plat, talking about the book numbers for the different vacations and section lines, that those needed to be changed. A rezone will be required for the utility lot and lot 2. They do not meet the requirement for highway service district. And if the applicant intends to place residents on the property, a rezone will be required for those specific lots as well. Dedication and improvement of a section 9 right-of-way will be required, along with percolation tests and soil profile information. It appears that the work to construct the access road has already been completed. The applicant will need to apply for a stormwater permit for the existing dirt work and any floodplain permit if any of the work was done within the special flood hazard area. I talked with the applicant about it. He is aware about that violation. With that, staff is recommending approval of layout plan LPL 21-82 with conditions.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Go
just
ahead.
one, Cody, and it may have been when I wasn't around. Did they remove all the tanks out of that store that were for selling the fuel?
Yes.
They have? Okay, thank you.
My question is so this property's been somewhat different ideas, let's say, for it over the past years that I've been here. And now it appears that they're going to subdivide with Highway Service District and all of that. So there will be septic requirements now on each lot, right?
Correct, yes.
And then how would they get water to each one of those lots?
It'd be an individual well is what they'd have to be unless he
Okay.
constructs a water system for it from one specific lot.
Okay.
But that'd be handled through the state.
Okay,
Chairman,
go ahead.
on Highway 44, these are gonna be residential lots?
I believe all except for lot 1 will be residential lots. The RV park will stay on lot 1.
So it's zoned highway service for a reason, because it's a buffer. I just talked about this before. I'm putting a bunch of residents right next to the highway. Causes a lot of issues with traffic, with just many things. I don't know if I know what you should be able to do what you want with your land in a sense, but I also think for future land use, that's bad planning. I think not putting commercial on those major arterials instead of residential causes issues. And this is a great piece of property for commercial or highway service to turn it into residential. So you can do what you want with your property in one sense, but the other, we should start following some of this, especially on major arterials and minor arterials. So just my opinion. So I will probably be voting no.
Questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
It seems to me, if I recall, this area, the lots area that's proposed is up that hill into the woods, right?
Correct, yes.
And is he thinking that he will keep them as 3-acre lots and sell them as locations for large homes that want to view and so forth?
That'd be my guess. I'm not 100% sure what he plans for the
Right,
residential.
yeah.
And just because he is planning it off, like I said, I believe he's doing residential, but he could keep those as highway service. Lot 4 and lot 3 meet the requirement for highway service, so those could stay highway service. It's just lot 2 and the utility lot don't meet the requirement for frontage along a highway. So he's going to have to rezone anyway. So the board would see that rezone, and that's where that could you could still subdivide it and leave it as highway service without changing the zoning. If you don't change the zoning, then he's stuck with those uses.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So, yes. So he's subdividing now, he's not rezoning it. So if he subdivides it and then puts it into commercial or highway service, it makes sense. So I take that back.
And
So
that
he
is
does
a
re-
seasonal sort of activity generally. I mean, it's all summertime stuff. It's, because I agree with Deb that oftentimes there's significant conflict between people who are butted up against, inappropriate zoning areas. But I would think this would be, depending on what his plans are, but it seems appropriate to me.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
can I show Cody my question? It's easier to show you. The access right now to this tower that sits up on top, it comes by another lot, the way it is.
Through Forest Service, yep.
How does that affect this, especially with the idea that we're talking about replating this into these lots and that access?
So the only thing that'll be affected by that is the zoning. With the access, that access isn't gonna change. It's still, permitted access. The only thing that's gonna change is highway service requires, a 50-foot access with 75, feet of frontage to a major, arterial. Since the utility lot won't have that, that'll have to change, same with lot 2. So the only thing that'll affect really that utility lot is the zoning, through the plating.
Does our requesting party here own this other piece of property? Is that all that comes out?
No, to the south is, Forest Service.
It is.
So it's a Forest Service
No
easement.
access, it says.
Okay. And then to add into the commissioner's comments, lot 4 and lot 2 there, that's, and actually part of 3, heck of an elevation difference there. That road just being there looks really nice, but that thing's straight up. It'll never meet any county requirements for road building. So they're gonna be redoing that too if they use that as an access. But to fortify what you're saying, that's a big rock, this whole thing. That's how that tower got up there
That could
years
be-
ago.
If
That's
it has a buffer like that, it's different than if it's just putting lots right on a major arterial.
right.
for
But what I
housing.
meant as far as water and your septic comment for housing lots, that's quite a, yeah, I realize that's the applicant's problem, but we have to look at that too. And there's just a lot of elevations difference in that small drawing.
So
Other
the
questions for staff?
The applicant is on Zoom, if there are any questions on specific uses.
Rob's on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna
Good. I'll
go to
direct my
him after
question to
we,
Rob then, Red.
if there's any other further questions for staff.
No.
Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions for Mr. Livingston on Zoom?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
so Rob, what are your plans for these lots?
Rob, are you there? We can't hear you.
If he put his phone on mute or his computer.
Rob, can you hear us? Okay, well, let's do this then. Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item?
Bob just messaged that he can hear us, but obviously we cannot hear him, but he can hear.
Okay, yeah, if there's no one else in the audience that wishes to speak to this, I would suggest that we move this item to next to item 22 in the agenda and keep things rolling. Anyone object to that?
Move to table. till
Move to
22.
table.
Yeah, till, make it 23 on the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to table item 15 to the end of our normal items after item 22. Further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll pick this back up and let them work on the connection with Rob. We're on item 16.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor again. Item 16 is Layout Plan LPL 21-78 to subdivide and create lots 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, and 3E of Battle Creek Mountain Estates subdivision. The applicant and owner is ELS Properties LLC, Rich Schulke. The surveyor is DC Scott Surveyors. The property currently consists of 15.09 acres. It is zoned rural residential district and is used as residential. Access is off of Highway 40. This was routed around through the interdepartmental review process. There was a couple of items of concern that came back from County Highway. One, it said that it appears that access to 3B will be off the section line. Access from Highway 40 will need to be approved by the South Dakota Department of Transportation. If the South Dakota Department of Transportation allows access from the section line, any road built within along the section line must be built to ordinance 14 standards. The concern here is that if the DOT does not allow access off the section line, this could be considered an isolated track, which would not be allowed. The existing lot does consist of a single-family residence and on-site wastewater treatment system and a garage. The proposed lots will each contain approximately 3 acres and will be vacant. There are shared access easements, a section line right-of-way, and access off of Highway 40 for a majority of the lots. If you would see on here, there is an access easement off the current approach off of Highway 40 that will provide access to Lot 3A, 3E, 3D, and 3C. Lot 3B is the one of concern. But this does appear to be in harmony with the existing lots and current land uses in the area. The property is zoned rural residential, which would allow those 3-acre lot sizes. They did make a note on the plat that this plat would vacate a public right-of-way, which cannot be done. It actually has to be vacated in accordance with SDCL 3136 and not by the platting process. So staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. Questions for staff on this item? Noting none, does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Hearing none, seeing none, staff recommends approval of layout Plan LPL 21-78 with 17 conditions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. For the discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 17.
Item 17 is layout plan LPL 21-80 to consolidate 2 lots to create Lot 6 revised of Gold Run Park subdivision. The applicant and owner is Gold Run 3 LLC, Gregory Wittenberg. The surveyor is KTM Design Solutions Incorporated. The property consists of approximately 50.23 acres. It is zoned agriculture district, and there is a residential use. There is a caboose on the property. They have obtained a conditional use permit to allow the caboose on the property. This is just to consolidate 2 lots. This was routed around through the interdepartmental review process. There was only one note that County Highway wishes that an approach permit be obtained. There were some comments from the Register of Deeds that the surveyor can acknowledge. This request appears to be in harmony with existing lots and current land uses in the area. Therefore, staff has no concerns with this lot consolidation and is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. For questions for staff? Go ahead.
The caboose,
Yes.
what is with the caboose?
It's just a vacation. They have a conditional use permit to allow it as a vacation type use. They just go up there on the weekends and use it.
Nothing more than that.
Nothing more than that.
This is spaghetti lot lines. This is something else, the way this thing's laid out. You have existing descriptions, Gold Run Park, and then when we get down to legal description, they've got Gold Run Park, but what about Hobart subdivision? Where does that figure into the new one?
It's just less lot 1 of the Hobart subdivision, so that means that it's separate from that subdivision.
I didn't
That's
see
what
it
that.
listed on it. That's why I was curious where it
Yes.
was.
But that's what that legal description means, that one of the other platted lots along there is the Hobart subdivision. This is just less that, so it's not included in that actual subdivision. They are surrounded by Forest Service, so it's just a consolidation. It is a strange lot configuration.
Further questions for staff on this item? Noting none, does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Hearing none, seeing none, staff's recommending approval of layout plan LPL 21-80 with 13 conditions. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 18.
I think that Rob has been on Zoom now, if you want to.
Yeah, we'll pick him back up after item 22. Sorry, go ahead.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, Deputy Planning Director. Agenda item number 18 is Layout Plan 21-79, and the applicant's agent has requested this item to be continued until the January 10th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to continue to what meeting again?
January 10th next year.
January 10th.
That's the next Planning Commission
Okay.
meeting.
Sounds weird. Next year.
Motion and second for continuance. Further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 19.
Agenda item number 19 is Layout Plan 21-81 to subdivide and create Lot 1 of Frink subdivision. The applicants and landowners are Travis and Amanda Frink. Location of the property is 23745 Highway 240. Currently zoned agriculture district. Access is off Highway 240 and there's no special flood hazard area on the properties. On the screen, I have the existing conditions or the existing lot on the top and the proposed lot down below. As it sits today, it is 38.87 acres. It does contain a single-family residence as well as an on-site wastewater treatment system. The proposed lot you can see over on the right-hand side of the bottom picture is going to be 4.14 acres and will be vacant of any structures or utilities. And the balance of the existing lot will be 34.73 acres and still contain the single-family residence and the on-site wastewater treatment system. The request was sent out for an interdepartmental review. The Register of Deeds did comment stating that there is already a Frink subdivision in another part of the county. So they would ask them to either use their initials at the beginning of the subdivision name or name it Frink Addition to distinguish it from the other subdivision. With that, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request as it appears to be in harmony with existing lots and current land uses in the area, and staff recommends approval of Layout Plan 21-81 with conditions.
Thank you. Is there questions for staff?
So moved.
So you're moving for approval of layout plan LPL 2181. Thank you. We have a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Just to be clear, does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 20.
Agenda item number 20 is Conditional Use Permit 21-64 to allow a 12 by 32 tiny home / park model as a primary structure on the subject property. This item was continued from the November 22nd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Just a couple updates on that. On November 29th of this year, the applicant spoke with emergency services and staff about naming the road, and it appeared that the applicants were working to move forward with the road naming. So my recommendation or my analysis for the update for this time around stated that the applicants are working with the Planning Department and Emergency Services to name the driveway connecting to Log Cabin Road. However, on December 9th, the applicant emailed staff stating that the conversations with staff and emergency services on possible road names for their private driveways should not be stated as working with the county to name the road. With that, staff maintains the recommendation I had last month that we recommend approval with conditions. One of those conditions being that the applicants do name that road for emergency services comments.
Okay. Questions for staff?
The applicant is in the audience if you have questions for him.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there going to be all park models there, or there's modulars there, or
There are stick-built homes up in the area. This is the only park model on the property or in
what
the
are those
area.
acreages on each of those? Is it suburban residential zoned? Did you say?
I think they're all zoned agriculture district up there.
With that many lots platted?
Correct.
Those are all platted already?
Yes. They're all separate individual lots. I believe these 4 are in ownership of the Patnos.
Okay, I'll just ask Donnie some questions then.
Further questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, and I'm trying to think of how to state this, Jason, is the difficulty, as I understood it from last meeting with the applicant, on renaming this as a road was that in effect, it was just a joint use driveway. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay. And that seems to still be, what would I say, on the table? Is that a good way to
Correct.
put it? So we're not together. Emergency services is looking at one way and the applicants apparently still feel the other.
Correct, and we have the applicant here, and it's my understanding we have emergency services on Zoom.
Okay.
Oh, I
Understood.
guess he's
Well,
here in the audience.
that was my question, because the 60 days isn't as relevant to me as a commission member as that there's some possibility of resolving this in the 60 days. Thank you.
Further questions for staff before we go to speakers? Noting none. Speaker request form I have on this is from Don Patno. Sir, if you please come forth, state your name when you get to the podium.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Don Patton.
I guess on your speaker request, I mean, you are asking for a conditional use permit to move forward with this, and you said on here that you're opposed. But as I understand it, you're just opposed to the requirement for the road naming. You actually want the conditional use permit, or am I confused?
I'm confused on what a conditional use permit is, but the real rub here is naming our multi-use driveway, as Charlie referred to it.
Okay. All right. Do you have some questions?
Okay,
Deb?
Don, so you have 11 lots, and you're gonna call it a driveway?
No, I have 4 lots.
Okay. But it's not a driveway. Is all your family live on those lots or something?
No, we have 2 neighbors. They're at 12323 are the Pauls. At 12329 are Singrays, and Mr. Singray's here this morning. The next lot, and there's structures on those 2 there, Deb.
Okay.
Moving to what would be the west.
Don, what would be the objection of making that a road? So I think what I'm thinking, what Ted's thinking hopefully, is when they have emergency services there on a driveway, I've never seen a driveway with that many lots. In fact, I'll be up straight, Don, how'd you get away with that long with keeping it as a driveway? Am I missing something?
It's always been a driveway. We have a recorded easement for access that the U.S. Forest Service recognizes. We just came in requesting a 911 address for the subject property, has opened up a can of worms.
Would you be willing to, was replatting and combining the 4 lots into 1 lot ever discussed?
No, the applicant never brought that up, never requested it.
Mr. Chair, before
Okay,
we
go
do that, can we do the overhead picture on the screen? Because when you look at the overhead, it makes it a little easier to understand what they're talking about when we call it a multi-user driveway. If you can see that picture, that's what I was going by, and as I understood, you can see Mr. Patno's property and the road that goes there and the road that goes to the other properties and how they.
What's the concern about naming let's call it a road, a driveway? I'm going to set that aside. The specific purpose for emergency services, as I understand it, is so they have a definition so they're able to find people in an emergency. So that's the goal. What's the concern about naming whatever it is so emergency services could find it? I don't understand that.
Yes. Right now, there are 2 structures there with 911 addresses using the log cabin Forest Service Road as their address. We thought it would be very simple just to get another 911 address, continuing the pattern that's was set for our neighbors using log cabin as the street address.
Okay. I'll let emergency services then explain exactly why they want the change.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
so I'm not getting why you wouldn't call it a road. Don, it's a road. If it was a driveway is access to one property. A road, I believe, is access to many properties. That's why it's called a road and not a driveway.
Well, but it goes back to how this was platted and probably when it was platted. It was probably platted and it has a private easement. So the landowners themselves own the roadway. It's not a right of way. And so everyone has this shared private easement through all their properties that provides access. Do I understand that
Correct,
correctly?
Rich. I
Yeah.
have
So you
that
can't-
recorded easement here.
So it's a forest easement, so you can't call it a road? Is that why?
No,
I
it's
guess
a
I've-
private easement.
Right. Through a Forest Service or just a private easement through somebody else's
The,
property?
the access point off Log Cabin Road,
Right.
there's, don't hold me to it, like a 20-foot, 30-foot parcel
Okay.
where the private road goes across Forest Service. Forest Service recognizes our private access off Forest Service Road to get to that parcel of, what is there, 2, 4, 6, 7 lots.
And there are different owners on those lots?
There are 3 different owners amongst those 7 lots, yeah.
Okay, Don, I'll just keep asking you.
No worries.
I understand the easement from the Forest Service, but I think you're making a confusion for me because it's not a driveway anymore. To me, once you've, maybe I'm not getting it, Rich, once you put it into a more than one lot, shouldn't it be called a roadway?
Mr.
It
Chair.
would nowadays, but
If I
it
have to
wasn't that
find
way when it was.
Rich's driveway to find 11 lots platted.
Now you're getting to the emergency services
That's what I'm saying.
question. So,
Mr. Chair.
That's my concern.
I think I can help. Megan Kruger with the State's Attorney's Office. So it's a private road, not a public road, is my understanding without having looked at anything and just listening to what you guys are talking about. So there is legally a difference really between a driveway, a private road, and a public road. Technically, as a private road, they could gate it off so that way people can't drive up it. A public road, you couldn't do that. So it's really, in all actuality, it's a private road that
So-
accesses multiple lots.
So legally, now that we're there, Megan, do they have to, for emergency services, have a name on that road in order for emergency services to find it?
I mean, I think that's probably a question that's better answered by emergency services because they're really the ones that are going to have to be able to find it. So if they believe that they need it, then my recommendation would be to follow what they want.
Mr. Chair.
go ahead, Charlie.
Just a couple of things that I see here. We're involved in a similar thing. To answer one of your questions, this was all before per se plating like we look at plating now. These were laid out similar to like Slate Creek, where in other words, those lots were platted, but it went through the Board of Commissioners as a submission at that time. In other words, this isn't under the plating since we've got planning and zoning, these lots. Brittany, that's my first question so that I know what gender of plating I'm looking at.
They look like mining claims to me.
Right.
Are they mining claims?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
so those
I
were done
agree.
far
I agree.
before
Now
any-
we got a far reach there.
Yeah.
The second thing is, we already have 2 addresses on there. So obviously, emergency services does know somebody's addresses are there for some reason. We have 2 addresses noted, and that's the way it's noted on ours. And the third thing to help the commissioner out, we actually have a road district, and none of our road is designated as right-of-way through any of our members' properties. And that's because of the age of the platting and the system we went through. And I think we're dealing with this here with these old mine claims. We saw this along Deerfield Road a number of years ago, a consistent set of mining claims. And I understand with them, some idea that they don't want to change that situation. I guess that's the right as property owners. But if they've got addresses here, why can't we ask that another address be put on the other four?
Ted?
We'll let emergency services answer that
Right.
question.
Yeah, that's, I'd rather have them just direct it and give us some direction here. Thank you.
He'll be able to clear it up a little bit better.
Good morning. Ted Ruffalo with Pennington County 911. Well, first I want to make a point, and it might not seem like an important point, but this isn't a 911 address. It's a physical locatable address. And there's no such thing really as 911 address. It's just your physical address of your home. And the reason we do that is just so that we can locate these in an emergency. And the state of South Dakota adopted the rural addressing system that we use here in Pennington County. So your house number is not just a random number, it's a locatable number. And that's the problem with this particular application here is a driveway, under the South Dakota addressing system, a driveway can support 5 addresses. So the 4th digit tells you how many tenths of a mile it is from a section line. And that's the problem here. If it's a driveway, the address closest to the named road would be the lowest number. And then the next address would be the next highest, and you can go up to 5. In this case, the second number.
Hold on just a second, sir.
Guys.
Sir, hey, oh, hey, excuse me. We'll bring you up one at a time so we can kind of maintain a semblance. Sorry, Ted, please continue.
No problem. And when I spoke to Mr. Patno, I explained there's really 2 options here. And the addressing doesn't have anything to do with if it's an easement, private, public, Forest Service. Right. The addressing system applies to any location that needs a physical address. And so really the 2 options here are to readdress the 2 existing addresses so that there is a number for Mr. Patino's place, which his would be the highest number. The first address in would be 12321. The next one would be 23, 25, 27, and that way you have enough numbers. The other option is to name that road or that driveway, and what that does is creates 100 new addresses that you can use, 50 on each side of the road, but then that would require all 3 places to get a new address. And that was Mr. Patno's concern when I spoke with him, was that they're coming in late, and no matter what we do here, it's probably going to result in an address change for the 2 folks that have already been there, and nobody wants to change their address. And the other concern Mr. Patno had was, if we name the road, now you put a street sign out there at Log Cabin Road, and they were concerned about ATV traffic and that kind of stuff, which I understand. And then he asked me about gating the road off, and I said, that's not my deal. I don't know the legality of that. All I'm trying to do is get a locatable address on his structure so that in an emergency we can find it. And so that's why that's what the problem here is that the existing addresses don't allow us to give him, because if we gave him the next number up, it would be 124, and that's a tenth of a mile further up the road, and then it's not a locatable address.
So Chairman, Don, so what he's saying is, totally understand, also have motel rooms, and they try to find those, let alone try to find houses. So up in rural areas. So he's trying to tell you that you need either a named road, which is private, and you, if I'm right, Megan, you can gate it because it's private, or new addresses. So if an emergency, unless it's a fire, they'll be able to see that, of course, what address it is or where it's at. But otherwise, if you have someone that needs ambulance or something else, they're not going to be able to figure out what house it is. By that time, it could cause some issues. So do you have a solution for us?
Yes, I think we can reach a compromise, and I'm glad Ted's here because he gave me a really good education on how the address system works, and I can understand where he's coming from. I think it was him that somebody messed up when they gave the 2 addresses to my neighbors, because the whole area is platted. It's been that way for probably 100 years because it goes back to mineral surveys. So now we're in the mess of trying to straighten this up, right?
I think if you look at the picture, you can see what the problem is that road where that second house is probably was the end of the driveway at that time.
Right.
And so it would have been the last address or the highest number, Well, now it's not. And that's what happens in addressing. As development occurs and things change, sometimes you have to adjust the addresses, and that's unfortunate. But we don't want to give it a bad address, because that's worse for the county, then that puts liability on the county. So it needs to follow our addressing system that we use in the whole county and the whole state.
So have you talked to Mr. Patno before? Ted, about?
We've spoken a couple
On the
times,
phone.
and I explained those two options. Ultimately, county planning issues the address. We don't issue the address at 911 anymore. We just assist planning in figuring out what are the options. And the options here are to renumber the houses with a log cabin road address, or name that driveway and then issue new addresses off that newly named road.
So do you have your options, down pat?
I think I understand. Who would we approach to get the new numbers assigned?
Chairman.
I think Justin, or I'm not sure who does.
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that.
Our
Do you?
office, we do that, yep.
Okay.
But I would recommend naming the road, because if there's future development that occurs up there, plans change. I know the applicant has stated in their lifetimes, they're never going to sell those 4 properties that they own up there, but plans change, and a long-term solution is naming the road.
But if they renumbered, he would now have the highest number, and you would have to account for those additional lots, whether he sold them or didn't sell them, right? So there would be a gap in numbering.
For the current properties that are up there now, yes. But
Yep.
if they're ever subdivided in the future to make room for development, at that point, it would create the same problem again.
So would you give a number to the first 2 and then put him at the end of the 100?
There's actually 7 lots, but you can only do 5 addresses on a driveway. I think that's what he's saying is, today, there may be only 3 places up there, but just in this development where you've got 7 lots, you don't have enough addresses off Log Cabin Road to issue 7 addresses.
So after you have
So
5
Right.
plats on a driveway, then you have to call it a road.
Well,
That's what you're
and
saying?
it doesn't even matter how many lots, it's how many structures. Like if you think about farm places, a lot of times, it's one big piece of property, but if they've got the hired hand's house, the landowner's house, they got a big machine shed, if they get more than 5 structures that need an address, now that creates the same problem where now we have to name that driveway. So I agree. I think if you try to renumber it with the number of lots, you're just kicking the problem down the road, and eventually you're going to have to name this and issue the addresses that way. That's the right solution. It might be years ahead of the time it's needed, but that is the right solution,
The alternate,
in my opinion.
The alternate is that he could consolidate the lots.
Well, I mean.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Charlie.
it's my understanding from years ago, and this may have changed, that if we're dealing with old mining claim type of things, there are only limited things that we can obligate them to do in those structures. Am I not wrong? When it comes to roads and access and that, because it's spelled out so much in the mining claim, that
believe
we're
that's
somewhat
for-
limited?
I believe that's for active mines,
Yes.
not.
No, I'm not talking about that they are active mining. It's the deed and title itself is quite specific, as I understood it, in a mining claim type of platting situation.
Right, so we've actually gone through this with the state's attorney's office. If it's actually been deeded on, it's considered a platted lot. So even though it has a mining claim as far as a legal description, it's considered a platted lot because it's been, that patent essentially has been moved forward and deeded to somebody else.
But are the federal rights on it, or is it
That comes
county
to-
or state rights?
That comes to use, so that goes above and
Okay.
beyond so they can still use it as a residential
Right.
or whatever, but if they came in as far as mining, then that takes a different.
Some of the federal requirements that were originally on there have gone away then.
No, they don't ever go away. So let's say we have this as a suburban residential lot and they have a patent for mining. We can't limit that patent because of a suburban residential zoning district.
Okay.
Essentially. So it comes down to use more so than actual.
I just can remember off of Deerfield Road that we had a significant one out there and about there, Mr. Jefferson number of years ago, with a similar type of situation with wanting to put a road back in there.
Right, so the road probably that went through here as a platted private easement because there wasn't, at the time that these were patented and then they were transferred,
Right.
those descriptions, those were the access points because that's what was there.
Thank you. I just don't want to end up in that quagmire after we finally decide what to do.
Sure. Did you have a comment?
So Chair,
Mr. Chair,
Don?
I'm optimistic we can reach a compromise here. Can I speak, or do you want to say something, Deb?
No, sir, you
Okay.
go,
Again,
if that's okay.
Ted was very helpful, and I appreciate everybody's comments. I've talked to my two neighbors that, we got a great neighborhood up there, by the way. We enjoy it with good neighbors. We have discussed with my neighbors of naming our private driveway. Our big opposition is putting up your conventional street sign. So we would propose doing a code 20 compliant sign that says it's a private driveway with the name that we come up with for our private driveway. Is that in the realm of possibility?
Ted?
You're talking about, would this be where the newly named road intersects Log Cabin? Correct. Yeah.
Show Ted what you're thinking.
I don't know what I don't know what the sign street name or, requirement.
And I don't know if we can answer all of that today. If it sounds to me like the issue at hand is that you're agreeable to renaming the road. Is that
Yes,
correct?
with the consent of my neighbors.
Okay, so,
Continuance?
well, I don't know. Is there any more I's to dot and T's to cross here? Or can we move this forward contingent on these conditional, or on these items?
Well, I'd rather those conditions in there so we could move this along. He'll get a temporary address in the meantime, during the 60 days until the road naming application is submitted and put before the board.
So if you give him temporary and he moves it on there and he doesn't comply, then what happens? You make him
Well, the
take it off?
problem is that the home's already out there. Yeah. So we'll give him a temporary address for the 60 days, so
Okay.
he can get his power hooked up and whatever he
After
needs to do
60
with an
days, if he
address.
does not comply, he has to remove the structure.
Right. Well, the conditional use permit would be reviewed at that point.
We have another speaker, or any other questions for Mr. Patno? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You done?
Sir, you wanted to come up and speak?
My name is Marvin Singery. I've lived on 12329 for 3 years now. I am familiar with the 911 system. I am a retired fire chief from Hazel, South Dakota. We work with 911 ourselves, so I'm real familiar with 911. This is, to me, is a special case, and the Forest Service actually has 100 feet. We have to pay for that permit ourselves to use that 100 feet for our private use. And big concern is all these ATVs and side-by-side use. Every day during tourist season, you know when that is, of course, we have on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have 100 ATVs a day go by that intersection. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it's 200 plus a day. And we have enough problems without any signage down there with these people. I have it placard, no private property, no trespassing, cameras, and we still have problems with people coming up there. And we put a sign up there. It's just going to say, hey, this is a road. We can come up there if we want to or not. And that's my big concern is traffic. Now, another concern, you say 5 addresses, which I realize there's 7 properties up there. But you say you can have 5 addresses, but there's only 2 addresses on that property.
Now,
you look down below, you got the other addresses down on those 2 properties just below that, and that's not part of our Hilltop Association, we call it, our homeowners association. So actually, those properties down below come in from a different area. They don't have access from our road. Our road is only those that you see on top up there. Those bottom 2 got part of our addresses. I don't know if you can see that on your other picture you had. but there's only actually 2 addresses on that property up high. And those other 2 are on a different road, so they can't access. Those 2 shouldn't be considered part of our 5 addresses.
So Chairman,
Go ahead.
so Marvin, what the issue is you got 11 platted lots. So
What's that?
the issue is you have 11 platted lots.
Correct, but there's only 7 that's in off this access road.
Right. And Ted says after 5 becomes an issue. You have
Right,
7
but if
platted.
Don would consolidate his 4, would that solve the issue?
Yes.
So that'd be up to Don.
Have an address change though.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, those 2 addresses below are wrong.
Yeah, the 2 below don't come into play.
So actually, you could just add 1 more number on that property. Well, I'm like on my farm, we have a quarter. We can have, like you say, 5 addresses.
The problem is are you at 12329? Is that your
Yes,
address?
I'm right there.
That's the highest number you
And
can have on this driveway.
why
That's the
is that?
problem.
Is there any other numbers that's 23, like say 23, 30 for the last 2 digits? Why can't you add just to that property?
Well, you only have 5 numbers on a driveway. You're on the odd side of Log Cabin Road, so it's 12321, 2325, 27, and 29. That's the only 5 numbers you can have on that driveway, and you're 29. So Pat knows would need to have the highest number. If you go 124, then you're another 1/10 of a mile up the road. So
I still don't see the issue. If you have each one of our, like right now, our driveway, we have our address as you come up.
yeah, I understand.
And you could do that and then put that 4 right there. So what, I mean, that would be a simple fix, because otherwise we're going to have to change our legal
Marvin,
on our titles.
Marvin, hold on a sec. So bottom line is, Rich said it, and you said the same thing. He can combine his lots or follow through with what the law is, basically with those lots. So if that happens, it changes everything. So today, are we gonna solve that issue of the lots or anything? We're not. Am I correct, Jason? So what is the next step for this to move forward? If Donnie or Don is going to change his 4 lots, or are you working with solution to change the road? I mean, I haven't heard what's really gonna happen in the end. So do we need to continue this?
I feel like whatever decision is made, your address is going to change, sir.
That's my problem, because I'm going to have to, who's going to pay for the, going back to the deeds, changing my titles? Why can't you just add 1 number?
They just told you why, Marvin.
I know, but I'm saying it can be changed. I've worked with this stuff. We have changed it in I'm from Hammond County, originally. Now I'm Pennington County. We have worked with the owners. It shouldn't be that hard of a thing to cause Paul and myself to have all this legal stuff to change these terms.
Marvin, you're a fire chief, so you know
I'm an
emergency.
ex-chief.
Okay, well, I never call you ex because you did some
Retired.
service for us. Thank
I'm
you, sir. Ted is worked in 911 for, I don't know, many years. How many years, Ted?
33.
I'm
33.
35.
Okay, so he knows what he's talking about. He's not trying to mess up what you're doing.
I know,
So
but-
we are going to follow what Ted says. Our attorney says to follow what Ted says. So legally, that's what we have to do, Marvin. Unless Mr. Patno changes his 4 lots.
Okay, but if he does that, he's still saying, I'm gonna have to change my address. That's my big concern.
Yep.
It's gonna be more expense
Yep.
to me.
Yep.
Who's gonna cover the expense? I am.
Yep.
And like I said, it's a simple fix, just adding 1 more number. I know he says it can only have 5, but right now there's only 2 there. What's if you start, I mean, no one else can build there. It's solid rock.
But you're in the
It's solid rock. I dug a well, 440 feet. I never ran out of rock.
So you used to be a fire chief, and did you legally listen to what the legal parameters of being a fire chief was?
Everybody.
Okay, so,
But simple fix and causing all this expense
okay,
is what I'm saying.
we're not
It's
trying to, sir.
unnecessary expense.
Then you have to change your neighbor's mind, and he still has to change it anyway with
Yep.
the address.
Well, you're not fixing my problem. I'm gonna have to change no matter what.
We didn't create a private drive for you. You did.
I didn't, I bought it that way.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
pre-existing.
Thank you.
It seems to me that we don't have a conclusive solution to this at this point.
Megan.
I think what I'd like to have happen is have the landowner come back after these conversations have happened with some sort of resolution, so we can move forward. So I'd be in favor of continuing this item again.
I would too, and see if we can work this out with the solution.
Do you
Mr.
have a
Chair?
comment to that?
Mr. Chair,
Go
just
ahead,
a
Charlie.
comment, but I'm going to refer back to Jason. You need to issue a temporary address on this. Is that not correct?
Before it can be occupied, there needs to be an address up
Right.
there, correct?
Okay.
So we're slowing down their occupancy of the park model home that's up there.
It is being slowed down.
Okay.
I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
offer continuance because there is no solution, and maybe there can be by the time we're done, either with lot change or with 911 helping Marvin and Don figure this out, maybe with some better solutions instead of shutting this down.
Go ahead, Don.
Second it for the purpose of conversation. I'll second it though, but I'd
So that
like
was
to
a
see
motion?
discussion.
January 10th, sir? Yes, sir.
And that's a second. Motion
So
and
that-
second to continue. Go ahead, Don.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think with more conversation with Ted and my neighbors, maybe we can come up with
Yes,
a
please.
compromise here. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, Don.
Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? Motion on the floor is to continue this item to the January 10th Planning Commission meeting. Further discussion? Noting none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on item 21.
Agenda item number 21 is Major Planned Unit Development Amendment 21-17 to amend the existing planned unit development to allow a specialty/recreational resort and to add 25 rental cabins and staff housing and dorms to the subject properties. The applicant and agents are Little Guys LLC, Powerhouse Lodge. Ben Brink is the agent. The site location is 24120 and 24125 Highway 16A. It is currently zoned planned unit development. Access is off Highway 16A, and there's no special flood hazard area on the property. Just a little history. The Board of Commissioners approved the extension of planned unit development 94-02 in 1994 with 5 conditions. And most recently, the Planning Commission approved planned unit development amendment, minor amendment, 21-02 in February of this year with conditions to allow reduced setback for a garage/maintenance facility. There are 3 properties in the planned unit development currently. One of them has 13 cabins as well as a guest cottage. The other has has a restaurant, multiple guest cottages, as well as a motel, as well as on-site wastewater treatment systems. And the last smaller property here on the right-hand side of Highway 16A contains a single-family residence, the garage maintenance facility that was built this year, as well as an on-site wastewater construction permit and an operating permit. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review, and there were no objections received. Staff's analysis of the request is that the applicant plans to expand amenities, lodging, and staff housing in the future. These uses appear to be consistent with the specialty/recreational resort, and I attached that to my staff report, the proposed uses that he's looking to add in the future. In February of this year, again, minor plan unit development amendment 21-02 was approved for a reduced setback in a garage maintenance facility. The applicant, in one of his proposed uses, is planning to add a second floor to that structure and use it as a dormitory for seasonal staff. Staff did analyze the current parking situation, and there are 158 parking spaces available in the planned unit development. I think what's required was 127. Yeah, 127 are required for the current uses that he has out there at this time, as well as propose what he has in the future. The applicant did provide current licenses from the Department of Health and the Department of Revenue. Staff did conduct a site visit last week, did verify that all the current conditions of approval are being met for the PUD. And finally, the applicant will need to obtain an approved building permit for the removal of the 20 by 28 detached garage. That's what the garage that was constructed this year. There was one torn down to make room for that. We just need a removal permit on file for that. And he's also going to have to submit a building permit for the proposed dormitory above that garage. With that, staff recommends approval of Major Planned Unit Development Amendment 21-17 with conditions.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Just one.
Go ahead, Charlie.
On the page, it's easier to show you. On this page where it's showing the property, what's the red line that's going through there? I mean, is it anything we've got to consider when we look at these things? I've never, that one. That's the section line? Okay. And that leads to a second question. And we are, I guess for lack of a better term, we're kind of shotgunning because we're adding highway services and a number of different requests for all sorts of things, both sides of a major highway. This one's a complicated one to do in the front end, I guess, is my thought as a commissioner. In other words, to do a good job of reviewing is my point. There's a lot of items we're listing here for possibilities of business exposures or directions. Correct?
A lot of the uses that he's requesting in the future already exist today.
Yes.
So when the PUD was first written in 1994, it didn't include a lot of those uses. And the reason for this request is more or less to tighten it up so we know what's happening out there. So
to clean that part of it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I see, and that's what I thought it was, but now I see that a section line also goes through it. Boy, here we go with the commissioners not wanting to get variances again. I can see things happening from that, but that's all right. Thank you.
Deb?
So Jason, with that vacating that section line in the future, they don't have to vacate it. They can, right now at this time, they're building around it, aren't they?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, if they vacated, it'd be a little bit different, Charlie, but I think they're fitting the use in which they're already doing. That's why I agree with it, because they're just adding more to what they already have. And water and sewer and everything, of course, have to be appropriated in it and make sure it's done right. But if they were doing something different, there would be a lot more to review, I think.
I just see, and it's just a little hang up I have with the state on how they worded the laws, and I don't know whether there's any of this is public property that surrounds this. Is the red public property or green?
Dark green is going to be Forest Service property.
The green?
Dark green, correct.
Right. What happens on that, and when we're talking about vacation of that section line, that dramatically changes what you can do when it involves it. But we don't have a classification of land through the land classification system in our state. They think we're, just east of Sioux Falls, and the section line can be developed. Well, this particular piece of property has such elevations that nobody's ever going to develop that section line. But we don't, per se, they can't vacate that.
They can vacate it. They just have to go through a process. And that process has to be followed to vacate it. But if that road is on a hillside or something where we decide, okay, you're not going to ever use that use, or yeah, it might be.
Thank you. I know what you're saying. You've come up with a better process for that than the old, once it ended up or had a public property. Go ahead and clean this up. Thank you.
Megan Kruger with the State's Attorney's Office. So because both ends are Forest Service, according to what Brittany told me, they actually could not vacate that by state statute. There is a statute that says that you cannot vacate a section line that provides access to public lands. So that would actually not be vacatable anywhere.
So they can't build on it either? Or is there an setback on that? How do you build all this stuff with that section line?
Correct, yeah, there's a 58-foot setback on either side of that section line. And just to be clear, the applicant has never once brought up vacating or anything with the section line.
He just knows he can't build on there before
Correct,
he builds it,
There's
Jason, and then.
Some of his most recent building permits are for these two addresses up here on this hill, and with those, he did meet the 58-foot setback.
Thank you. Fair to
Thank
say
you.
move approval? Move approval?
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Motion for approval?
And just to let you know, the applicant is on Zoom if you have any questions for him.
We have a current motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Go ahead.
Question, sprinkler systems, this dormitory, the second floor, does that have to have sprinkler systems and that sort of thing?
I don't believe so. If it's a commercial structure, it will. If it's used as residential, then we don't require that.
This would be considered residential, even though the help would be in it and all that sort of thing?
It could very well be. We'd have to look into that when they submit the building permit based on the floor plan at that time.
Any further questions for staff before we go to the Zoom call? Go ahead, Deb. Oh.
Thank you.
Mr. Brink, I believe, is on the call. Sir, do you have any comments to add to this? Or are you just there to answer questions if need be? Is Mr. Brink still on? He is?
Yes, he is still.
Okay. Mr. Brink, can you hear me? Well, motion, does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? Noting none, staff recommends, there's already been a motion and second for approval of major planned unit development, PU 21-17 with 25 conditions. If there's no further questions for staff or the owner, I think we could go ahead and vote.
Mr. Brink typed in the chat that he does not have any comments at this time.
Thank you. That confirms that. Last time for comments. Noting none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We are on item 22.
Agenda item number 22 is planned unit development overlay 21-18 to allow for a planned unit development overlay, allowing a recreational resort to include the uses such as a swimming pool, a golf course, vacation home rentals, an RV site, pole barn, and a butcher processing shop on the subject property. The applicants are McCrory Vacations LLC. The agent is Lisa McCrory. The other agent is Rob Livingston. He's on Zoom if you have questions for him. Site location is 24010 and 24012 Twin Springs Road. Property is currently zoned agriculture district with access off of Twin Springs Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. PUD overlays are relatively new to the office. Section 216 lists the following standards that shall apply to an overlay district. I'll read staff's responses, starting with number 1. The uses of the proposed PUD overlay district conform to the uses by right or conditional uses permitted in an agriculture district. Number 2, the uses of the proposed PUD overlay district are of a type and are located to minimize detrimental influence upon surrounding properties. The uses of, number 3, the uses of the proposed PUD overlay district meet the standards governing area, density, and off-street parking of an agriculture district. Number 4, the proposed PUD overlay district is 4.6 acres. Number 5, the proposed PUD overlay district is owned by McCrory Vacations LLC, a member-managed company. Initial member managers are listed as John and Lisa McCrory. Oops. Number 6, the uses of a proposed PUD overlay district are not designed as to be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. Number 7, the Pennington County Zoning Ordinance, Section 510, lists criteria in the next table. These are the 7 criteria that you would typically approve for a conditional use permit. So we'll also go through these. Starting with number 1, the uses of the proposed PUD overlay district should not be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. Number 2, the uses of the proposed PUD overlay district should not substantially impair or diminish the uses, values, or enjoyment of other property in the neighborhood for purposes already permitted. Number 3, the uses of the proposed PUD overlay district should not impede the normal orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties for uses permitted in the district. Number 4, the proposed PUD overlay district contains adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary site improvements. Number 5, the existing approach will provide ingress and egress to minimize traffic congestion on Twin Springs Road. Number 6, the requested use conforms to all applicable regulations of an agricultural district with an approved PUD overlay district. And lastly, number 7, future land use is identified as rural residential. Large lot residential in natural areas is a consistent use within this district. As the property sits today, it does contain a single-family residence, a 30 by 40 shop, detached garage and studio, as well as multiple on-site wastewater treatment system construction permits and an operating permit. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. Comments were received, but no objections were received for the request. The U.S. Forest Service did have comments that are attached to the staff report. Staff's analysis of the request is that the current landowners, McCrory Vacations LLC, purchased the subject property in August of this year with all improvements made by the previous owner and agent Rob Livingston. Approval of this request will bring the existing and proposed uses of the subject property into compliance with the Pennington County zoning ordinance. However, the main residence, 24010 Twin Springs Road, was built 24 feet from the property line. Therefore, a setback variance will be required to bring the subject property into full compliance with the Pennington County zoning ordinance. And I did submit this staff report, a draft of it, to the applicant's agent, Rob Livingston. He stated that this site plan that he submitted, this is where the 24 feet came in. He says that's 29 feet. I asked him for a survey to kind of clarify that, and he said that he will provide staff with that survey. But until that is provided, that is a condition of approval that was added.
Thank you. Sir, what do you need?
I'd like to refer to that, 21.8G.
So I'll call you up when we're having comment from the public. Questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just a kind of a quick question. On this type of request, what is the neighboring notifications? Do they go out, how far, whatever?
I believe it's the 500 feet. It's the
To
same
the
as a conditional
500
use
feet,
permit. Yep.
similar to a normal conditional? Okay, thank you.
Question.
Go ahead.
Suburban, agriculture district, 10 acres.
10 acre minimum, correct.
And this is 4.6.
Right. So it'd be a legal non-conforming use. It was likely created prior to the zoning ordinance going into effect in 1994.
We'll have to rezone to get down to that.
No, it's a legal non-conforming.
The chairman,
Go ahead.
how long has this been a resort, Jason? Since 94? Or was it just a house? What was it before this?
I believe he built the house. I don't know what, oh, actually I do. It was built in 2000.
Okay, and the neighbors already know that it's going to be a resort?
There aren't many neighbors in this area.
Yeah, I
This
saw
is
it was
a
at the
very secluded area. Twin Springs Road is up here and the driveway is pretty extensive to get to.
So it wasn't used for a resort or anything afterwards?
I think it was a private residence since 2000.
Okay. And he wants to build a golf course and some other things on
Well,
there?
it's already there. I have pictures of that if you'd like to see. So this is the main residence over here on the left, the swimming pool here on the outside.
Okay.
The golf course goes through. There is, this was originally permitted as a garage and a studio.
Okay.
It has been since found that it is a single-family residence. So I believe they are requesting to make this a vacation home rental. This is the garage and butcher shop over here.
Look, Carol, so that was somebody's house?
I'm sorry?
This was somebody's single family, or?
Correct, yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. But you're gonna, how many people on the road to this, did you say, Jason, to this house?
I believe there's only, there's one other address up here.
And so the road goes through that to this address, to this resort?
Yep, so Twin Springs Road comes down this way.
Okay.
Well, Twin Springs Road is here, the driveway comes this way, and it looks like it only serves this address, or this property.
Okay, so it's not gonna be a major issue with going through 15 people's houses before?
No, there is a Forest Service easement on file with them to access the property.
That way people know, now that they build around on that road, that there's a resort at the end of it, instead of you find that you put a resort in somewhere on a major road, so that makes more sense.
Additional questions for staff? Go ahead.
This is a fairly long Forest Service road. The Centennial Trail runs right beside it in a few of the areas. My concern was, were they planning on renting UTVs? That they would be heavy traffic on that road with
There's
that?
been no mention of renting UTVs, only vacation home rentals and the uses that are listed in the
Didn't see it, and I
description.
was just curious. Okay.
Further
Mr.
questions for
Chair.
staff?
Jason, this looks like from the sketch here, the rapid map sketch, it looks like those mining claims again, layout. I was going through, and when you had commented this was probably prior to planning and zoning. That's
correct.
Long prior. Thank you.
Anything else for Jason? Okay, sir, if you'd like to come up now. When you get to the podium, if you'd state your name for the record, sir.
My name is James Osborne. I live at 4022 West St. Louis Street here in Rapid City. And I own Crowload 963, which is the one immediately to the south of his, that one right there. And I'm up here, I must be after the fact because I viewed the buildings, apparently that's already up there, right? Golf course and all that?
Right.
Okay. I would have objected to that, I guess, had I been here earlier. So really, what is he asking for? A legal determination for what he's done, or what is this after the fact, or?
Jason, go. I'll let you answer that.
Yep. For the uses that they're requesting,
pardon me?
They're requesting to use the subject property as a vacation home rental, the swimming pool, golf course, RV sites, and a pole barn to include a butcher processing shop.
Those are already in place, right?
Those are already in place,
Oh,
correct.
okay.
Yep.
My concern is, I'm the only original owner of those four claims, or four. We bought them in January 1974, 5 of us. And since that time, they've passed, of course, to different people. And I come in from the north end of that claim of mine. And I'm a little concerned about traffic up there, like the ATVs, and I don't know if you're going to run cattle in there between the Forest Service parts or not, but those are my concerns. When we bought that, we just wanted to go up and enjoy the scenery, and now it sounds like we've got a commercial outfit in here, which he certainly is entitled to, but that's my concern.
Okay, questions for the gentleman?
What other, Chairman,
Go
what
ahead.
other commercial is in that area besides that resort that he's gonna put in there?
Nothing.
There's no commercial in that area.
Is there any future land use for commercial in that district? We're gonna take a residential, okay, I think it's awesome, because it looks like that and it could go there, but you're putting a residential in the middle of commercial in the middle of a residential area.
Mr. Chair,
Does it
I
fit
do
in
have a
there?
question for James.
Go ahead.
Sorry. James, before you sit down, is that all fenced off? Are the claims fenced? Is it fenced off so that they could have cattle in there?
Mine isn't, no, huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Chairman,
Go ahead.
Those, the Forest Service land between those claims, to my knowledge, not fenced. But
Okay, and they haven't been putting cattle, to your knowledge, on there? Because they usually require them to be fenced if
well,
they're.
not recently.
Okay, that was my question. If the fences were there, then usually the Forest Service has the right to put the cattle on there because the property owners are required to put the fence up. Thank you.
Go ahead, Deb.
did you say staff thought this was okay?
Yes, staff
You could-
recommends approval.
So why did you agree that this resort would be good in the middle of, is this future land use? Like I said, is there no commercial in that area? Why was it agreed with?
Future land use is residential. So basically the uses that are being requested are residential in nature. A vacation home rental is not a commercial operation. It is considered residential.
Golf course and stuff is residential?
Well, This is a unique situation where it's more fitting of a recreational specialty resort, and that's why the PUD overlay was requested. It basically sums up multiple conditional uses into one package.
But they're not going to have anybody from the public. I mean, the only people using that golf course are going to be the people that are renting the vacation home.
Correct.
They're
Yeah,
not
they're not
running a separate golf course in addition to the house. Is that correct?
It's part of the amenities that are provided at the recreational resort.
So how many people can be at this resort? If you're talking 3 or 5, then makes sense. If you're saying 50 people can be at that resort, that's a little bit different story in surrounding area of residential.
There's a lot of vacation homes, though, that have capacity for 20, 30.
10.
Right. This, altogether, as it sits right now, there are 7 bedrooms on the property, so 14 overnight guests are allowed, 28 daytime guests.
Okay, that makes more sense than you telling me later that each of them could fit 10, 20 people in well, you can fit whatever you want, but legally at a vacation home
Correct.
rental, you have to have that certain capacity. So we could shut it down if they didn't comply.
Right, and they would still need to meet the requirements of vacation home rental
And
ordinance.
it's how many acres? Which makes sense, because you're not putting a
4.6.
specialty or 14 people on 1 acre lots and going, okay, this is special resort. You actually, sir, so he can put up to 14 people on that property for vacation home rental or just for people on that area, and they use the golf course and others, so it's not going to be like a resort with 50 people at a time on it.
Mr. Chair,
So-
daytime use allows 28, doesn't it?
Yes, daytime use allows 28,
Thank
14
you.
overnight.
Yeah, but most
28 people.
Most people during the day, take my word for it from having motels, 28 during the day is a little bit different than after hours when people sleep and cause a lot more havoc.
What I meant is about the traffic for the golf course and whatnot. That does concern me, 28 people coming and going. And allowing your friends, how do you regulate from here what we're going to issue? In other words, we don't have a gate counter. For 28, we count on the neighbors to basically be our restrictions.
I don't believe there's any other properties that take access off of that
Right.
easement with the Forest Service other than that one.
That makes the traffic less for other people.
It also doesn't impact anybody else.
Yes, sir.
Questions for this gentleman?
I'm still curious about how big this tract is.
4.6 acres.
4.6?
Correct.
Okay.
Sir, I think we've got all the questions answered
Thank
from
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Does anybody else in the audience wish to speak on this item? Okay.
What's your name, sir? Jason. Pardon me? Jason.
The agent for the property, Rob Livingston, I believe is on the call. Does anyone have any questions for him?
Chairman,
Do you have questions for Rob, the agent?
or just Jason,
Okay.
was it noticed by the surrounding areas? I know they have the easement for the traffic, but you said anybody living right next to this property?
I believe there's only one other property that actually is occupied with an address, and that's one here to the north.
So Rob,
No,
can you hear me?
we still with.
Rob, are you there?
Okay, while we're trying to find Rob, I have one more for Jason. When you did your research for this, there's had to be a number of different building permits. Did the building permits list all these things like ponds and pools and golf courses?
No.
Thank you.
There were subsequent building permits. If you look in the staff report, originally when the house was built in 2000, I think it did not include some finished space, decks, or an underground parking garage. That was permitted this year with penalty fees. The 30 by 40 shop building also had a garage addition added to it. which needed to be paid for with penalty fees and permitted properly this year. And the detached garage studio that was permitted was
Jason, the
a single family. It was a single
second part
family.
of that would be, and then the property has also changed hands since we're talking about the different things that were done before the changing hands.
Right.
Thank you.
I believe you got the permits before the sale was final.
Yeah, but I'm saying all the related items, we don't know. Certainly whoever the property purchaser was knew what related items were there, I assume, and the owner. But we didn't as a planning department, as a planning commission. We're now talking about basically approving a sale that went through that all that stuff was to be privately used. In my mind, in other words, it was on a property, it was supposed to be all private use, and now we're going to an expanded use.
Which has been corrected with permits and other things though, Charlie, at this time. So it's not private use anymore, and it's been corrected, Jason has said, to be approved on this agenda for,
After the fact, but we're going to approve the expanded use right now.
yes, but that's not the owner that owns it now. That was the previous owner, and he had to pay those fines.
Represented by, and I know Rob, represented by the same gentleman that owned it before.
But it's
Am I
not the
not
owner.
correct?
He's going to, is he going to own this property afterwards? That's what I'm saying.
Well, but, okay, my question is are we approving something that was in a sale after the fact? It's only been since August.
Right.
That's my question in my mind. I want to hear from Rob.
You got permits.
Yes. He corrected the issues.
Corrected it.
Yes.
Okay, so this property was sold during this. So staff had reached out to the current owner with the notice of the violations, and then it was sold, and then they were working through together. We had to wait until our PUD overlay requirement came into play, our ordinance, for them to bring this into compliance, because there was two options for this. As it currently was used, it would have been an estate property because the swimming pool and the golf course would have required separate CUPs, even for a personal use. So the people that purchased it are using it as a recreational resort because they live elsewhere and they're using it as rental. So if the person that purchased it is using it differently than the current owner. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I was saying.
So you basically held this until now to allow the overlay district to become active?
Correct.
Okay. Are you there, Rob?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. I'm not very technology capable, I guess.
Okay.
To answer your question, this has been this way since 2004. Nothing's really changing. This all started due to the fact that the new owners wanted to add a flex building in there, and that's what spiked, had them come out and see the property, and then they found that we built something different, even though have been taxed on the same square footage since 2002 when it was built. It wasn't built in 2000. In 2000, the Forest Service permits to get through to the land took us over 2 years to get, but we already did have the permits to build without the access. Back then, it was a little bit different. This property can't be seen from anybody else's property. The road does only go through to this property. Nobody else access road besides the Forest Service or other people that might be driving on it. It is a public road since it's Forest Service. As far as the golf course, it's a little three green pitch and putt thing. It's not made for the public. It was actually for private use, really. Then we allow the people in the vacation home to use it.
Okay. Any other questions for Rob?
It's really just a water feature. It's just a water feature. We put it in there for the fire department, talking back with Vic Alexander when he was the fire chief and stuff, and we put 1,000-gallon holding tank in there, and then we made some waterfalls going down to it. We do call it a swimming pool, but it's not vacuum cleaned, chlorinated, or anything.
Hello, Chairman.
Go ahead.
The bottom line is he has a separate access, which helps the public in the residential area around there. He's got 4 point some acres. That you
Yeah,
violated a lot of those
Jim's
permits.
was there. You can't even see Jim's place, and they do run cattle in there. They ran cattle in there ever since I've been there. They might not go down to Jim's property, but they sure can. They go in the valley between us too.
So Rob, a couple of things.
My property off to keep the cattle out because they happen to like the green grass of the golf course.
Can you hear us, Joan? Can you hear me, Rob?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I'm agreeable to turning this into resort, but you are also, I'm gonna give you a little bit of crap. You are a builder and you built stuff without permits, and you knew you needed them. So you have paid the fines and stuff, and I appreciate that, but from now on, I'm just gonna start looking a little bit closer at your stuff that you're building, because you have to comply, right, Rob?
Yeah, okay, so let me start with this, Deb. Back when we built this, we didn't even have floor plans. We drew it in there. We drew X amount of square feet in there. The permit was $200. It wouldn't matter if it was 5,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet. The permit was the same price back when I got this. At that time, after it was built, the equalization came out, measured everything, and we paid taxes on exactly what was built. It's not the same as it is now, where you have to build, square footage, and the permits are billed as per square foot. Back then, it wasn't that way. Again, we didn't have footprints, we didn't have floor plans, we didn't even know if we could get access when we pulled the permits. And at that point, Scott Anderson was the planning commission, and it was discussed with him at that time that, hey, it's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit different. And he said, as long as it meets the setbacks, it was fine. So
okay, so Rob, you know the rules and regulations. Even if you change something, you have to come in and make sure the staff knows it. So you knew that, right?
Again, there was no floor plans or nothing done back in 2000.
Right, but after you got the floor plans, you started building other things and out different buildings and using them for different uses, adding to garages. You knew you needed a permit.
Okay, well, it was discussed, and at that point, it wasn't discussed that way.
Okay,
Sorry,
well, even discussed, I'll just tell you, you're a builder and you know how the rules and regs are, Rob, so I'll be up straight. I think what this is gonna be, because of the separate access and what you're gonna do with it now and what you sold it as, it works. Most of the time in residential areas or issues with areas like that, where you put a resort in the middle of everybody, it's a little bit different, but, the acreages, the separate, easement for the driveway to it makes a huge difference of how the traffic is gonna be and affect the surrounding area. The other thing is what's the closest neighbor to you then? Because I do see some topography there.
I don't know. Wellers might be the closest. They come in off of the bird load, they go to the bird load, they come out of the same access that Mr. Osborne gets to his property.
Okay.
There's another one down over the hill. Oh, I'd say probably the closest is, I don't know, I'm guessing 1,000 feet.
Okay, so Jason, do we notify any of the surrounding neighbors that we're gonna do a resort in this area instead of keep it as a residence?
Right, it has the same notifications as a conditional use permit, so the 500 feet notifications.
And they're
If these people
1,000
are 1,000 feet away, they wouldn't have gotten notified.
Okay, so it'd probably be good to, if we have residences that we're gonna change a use into a commercial and residential area, I think we need to do something different.
We've
Both those were done. Their houses, Deb, I guess their land butts up to mine, so they definitely did get a notice. But their houses, you were asking me how close the neighbor was, so I was thinking houses.
Okay.
Willers are on 10 acres. I think Osborne's about 8 acres. He doesn't have a house on his. And then the neighbor on the other side of the bird load has a house which butts up to the same property of mine. It was split in half back in the 90s.
And you have an easement, a Forest Service easement, are you
owned by Wellers too, so.
Are you surrounded by Forest Service? Because you have a Forest Service easement.
Except for one property line, a 300-foot line between where they separated the Peacock load into two loads.
Okay, thank you.
Rob, when was the guest house built?
2002.
Okay.
That was built first.
Mr. Chair.
And the primary house was built in 2004?
In 2004, yeah. It was finished about end of 2004, October.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Rob Charlie Johnson. How many square feet in that main building? Both floors? Livable. I assume both floors are livable, Rob. Is that correct?
3,500.
3,500 in that one main building?
75. Yeah, just a lot of roof.
Okay, I'm looking at another building with a motor coach alongside of it. How many, that's some type of shop building. How many feet in that?
2,400. 60 by 40.
Okay, and what about the other residents there?
It's a 24 by 36.
Boy, in the pictures, they sure look bigger than that. What I was getting at is that to find let me finish, Rob, to find 7 bedrooms in all those buildings, and that's all, that main building looks a lot more than 3,500 from the pictures I'm seeing, especially when you use 2 floors. Excuse me, Rob, give me a chance to finish. Both floors. Both floors.
It's under it's under 5,000, or right at 5,000 with all floors. It's actually 3 levels. The garage is underneath, and then the bedrooms above that, and then the main floor, and then there's a second floor on that.
Okay, I guess I'm going to take that, but I'm saying there's a car parked in this picture, the windows and whatnot, and just the size of that roof. I'd sure like to have that measured out.
Jason, did you do inspection of the properties?
We've been there, and we've done plans, and I've sent the actual plans to the county, so.
Right, yeah. We verified,
Charlie?
We verified all the square footage when we squared away with the building permits.
Do the
Earlier
plans
this
match what's sitting there?
Yes.
He said there wasn't any plans when they started, they just kept adding stuff. They match?
We compared.
When we applied for the permit, Charlie, there was no.
Okay.
Plan. They have submitted the plans, exactly how it's built, drawn, and they have them all.
Okay, then my question should have been to Jason then, I guess. How many square feet in the main building?
I'll look it up. I'll grab Equalization's website real quick.
And the other buildings. Because that one building, I'm just saying, I've got a shop that's 57 by 57. You park a motor coach alongside of it, doesn't look like the motor coach parked alongside of that. And 57 by 57, if you've got a upstairs, is a lot more than 2,500 or whatever it was, 2,400 square feet. I was trying to write them down.
So your point about the building.
My point is that from the picture I'm seeing doesn't coincide in my head with what I'm seeing.
But do you have a problem with how many people are in there? What is your point by the square footage?
Bedrooms. 7 bedrooms. If this hit 10 bedrooms, then it becomes a resort. Is that not correct? If it hits 10?
Right, so I can grab the building permit.
A different category altogether that's controlled more by the state.
Yeah, I didn't bring the building permits with me to verify what the square footage is, but this is the square footage that we used. When we gave him his building permits earlier this year, we compared it to what Equalization had, compared to what he had proposed, and the difference is what he got the penalty fee and the building permit fee assessed through our office.
So Equalization had to do an inspection, didn't they, Rob?
Right, so Equalization has it at 57.
Yeah, they came up.
Inside the buildings?
So this is the main residence.
Hello?
I'm just stifled. I'm sorry, Rob, I'm a little stifled, and I'm listening to this. But
Has big rooms, Charlie. There's only one bedroom on the whole main floor, and you're not going to cut it up because it's
Okay.
a big open log structure. You would ruin the whole feel of that house if you tried to put another bedroom in it. They are proposing to add 2 bedrooms. There's only 3 bedrooms in the main house as it is right now. They're talking about adding 2 more bedrooms to it on the second floor. And that could be possible, but that would be the max you could add to that house without destroying the beauty of it. And the smaller guest house has the bedrooms in it, and it's 24 by 36 footprint. And I built that same house probably 50 times in Pennington County, all through Storm Mountain cabins and all those homes. I mean, the bedrooms are only 10 by 12 to start with. You're not going to be adding anything to them. The proposed building an RV garage they want to do, that's what started this. The flex building is 1,600 square feet, I think. I don't have the plan right in front of me, is what they want to add. And then it's an RV garage that was 20 by 45, kind of cut in the side of the hill. But they aren't planning. It's a vacation home rental, and they're not even sure they're going to even rent the main house out. But my suggestion was to them, if they're going to go through this, they should get it approved for that in case they decided to.
Okay, thank you. I will admit that I underestimated apparently the size of your bedrooms in the main house. But just when you're looking at the structures in comparison to the pictures, and you're probably not looking at the picture that I'm looking at, certainly the size of the structure versus vehicles outside, I had not, you're saying there's only 3 bedrooms in that main house?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I had the kids, and so they had all their own, space, their own living room.
Each had their own house in their house.
For additional questions for staff or for Rob? Noting none, does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I don't see any. Staff recommends approval of planned unit development overlay PU 21-18 with 22 conditions.
So moved.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Move to take number 13 off the table.
15.
15, was it?
Yep,
Sorry, sir.
15 off the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to bring 15 back to the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Yeah,
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 15.
You want me to go through the whole thing again? Or?
I don't think that you need to go through the entire list again. Rob, were you on when we were discussing this with respect to the lot sizes, where they're at relative to the highway? And do you have any comments, I guess, before?
Yeah, I did. I had a couple of comments to Charlie and to Deb. One, and I don't know, can you disable my screen so I can show you my screen? Is that possible?
No, it is not. It is not possible.
Is that Deb, you had wanted to know about commercial highway service, and that's what it should be at the corridor, which I totally agree on. This is not highway serviceable area. And when you come around the corner from there, you get where the campground is, and that is a flat, 6-7 acres. I'm standing outside so my phone will work, so I don't have it in front of me, and I can't echo into you guys. That's very highway serviceable and everything. The Forest Service Road, Charlie, that services just the Verizon tower.
Yes.
New roads going through. If you go to Google Maps, you put in the address 1600 West Highway 44, 16001 West Highway 44. You can stand on the street and you can look at it, and it's actually pretty updated, fairly new right now, because you can see the campground's actually in there. You go around the corner and you can see that it is a dirt mountain. There's not rocks on that side. You can actually see my excavator sitting there. Putting the road through is going to be expensive to get it up there to those lots and get it done. But my idea is for 3 residential lots. Of course, the utility lot for the tower, and then leave the campground it is. And I do realize it will have to be rezoned to this. This was approved as a layout plat, just like it was with 2 lots. But after getting it surveyed and marked, I can create 3 lots that are totally separate from each other, where nobody can see each other, and make 3 nice private lots within 3 acres apiece. And that is my plan.
Okay, questions for Rob?
Just, Rob, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie.
I remember when we looked at that tower, you went that route because don't you have some difficulty meeting the incline on trying to get your road up to those 2 lots up on top?
No, that was the DOT. The DOT and the Forest Service.
Are you there, Rob?
All circuits are busy. Please try your call again later. Announcement 8, switch 528-2.
Thought we fixed
Rob, I assume you can hear us now, and that's all right. I understand what you're saying, and that was why the routing had to do with the DOT requirement. Thank you.
It does have a convenience store in there.
Further, did other people have additional questions for Rob that need to be answered, or have they been answered?